When Grace turned 15, she thought she'd aged out of hope. 12 foster homes had come and gone, each one leaving her with less trust and more scars. But everything changed the day the Winters came. Michael and Helen Winters were polished, warm, and wealthy. They chose Grace from the system like someone picking out a rare book from a shelf. "You're special," Helen said, holding her hand. Their mansion had chandeliers, velvet curtains, and a lavender bedroom just for her. Grace remembered whispering once that lavender was her favorite color. She had never been listened to like that before. "This is your home now," Helen told her on that first night, holding her as she cried on the floor. "You're safe here. Really safe." And Grace believed her. For the next 3 years, Grace lived what felt like a dream. Private school, violin lessons, vacations to Italy, and shopping trips for prom dresses. She'd never imagined a life like this. At school, the other students complained about the wrong shade of car or not getting the latest phone fast enough. Grace just smiled and kept her story quiet. Only Ethan, her boyfriend of 2 years, knew the truth. He'd met her during music club and listened without judgment. "You're not broken," he always told her. "You're just strong in ways most people can't see." He promised they would build a life together. Something of their own. For the first time, Grace felt like maybe she could believe in forever. Where are you watching from today? Kindly hit like, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more. Her 18th birthday began like something out of a movie. French toast with fresh strawberries, streamers across the kitchen ceiling, and a jewelry box that played Chopin. That evening, they took her to one of the fanciest restaurants in town. The kind where glasses sparkled and silverware had more pieces than a puzzle. Michael laughed over a silly story and Helen raised her wine glass with a soft smile. But then something shifted. Helen exchanged a glance with their oldest daughter, Lily. Grace noticed the cold edge in it. "Now that you're 18, Helen began, placing her glass down gently, "we need to talk about your place in this family." Her tone had changed. It was no longer soft. It was sharp. Grace blinked. "My place?" she asked, the laughter still dying in her throat. Michael slid a sleek leather folder across the table toward her. She opened it with trembling hands. Inside were medical records, her medical records, dating back 3 years. Charts, blood work, fertility reports. Every routine checkup they'd scheduled had actually been for this. "You were chosen for a reason," Michael said, his voice steady like he was discussing a business plan. "Lily can't have children. But you can. You're young. Healthy. A perfect match." Grace's fingers tightened around the edge of the folder. "We raised you for this," Helen added as if that made it better. Lily leaned in, her voice cracking. 3 children. At least. I'll stay with you through the pregnancies. We'll pay for college. You'll never claim the babies as yours. That's the agreement. Grace felt the world tilt under her. "You're serious?" she asked, barely above a whisper. Lily reached across the table, her fingers brushing Grace's hand like they were sharing a moment. "I've waited 3 years for this. You're the answer to everything." Grace's mouth opened but no words came out. Helen leaned closer, her eyes hard. "Think of what we've given you. The life you would have had without us." Michael's voice dropped like a hammer. "The car. The tuition fund. Your future. It all depends on you saying yes." Grace forced a tight smile and nodded as if she was thinking it over, but her stomach was in knots. That night, after throwing up in her lavender bedroom, she curled into a ball. It hadn't been a home. It had been a slow, careful trap. Later that night, Grace sat on the bathroom floor, still in her birthday dress, her back against the tub. The room smelled of roses and lemon cleaner, but she couldn't stop shaking. Her phone buzzed, and when she picked it up, Ethan's name flashed across the screen. She answered with a whisper. "Can you come?" 15 minutes later, Ethan was knocking at her window. When she opened it, he saw her face and climbed in without a word. She told him everything from the medical files to the promises and threats. Ethan's eyes darkened as he held her. "You're not going through this alone," he said. "We'll find a way out. I swear." She wanted to believe him, needed to believe someone still saw her as more than just a body. A week later at Sunday dinner, Grace made her move. The family was passing mashed potatoes, pretending everything was normal. Grace set down her fork and cleared her throat. "Ethan and I are getting married," she said calmly. "We're planning to start a family soon." The room fell silent. Michael froze, his wine glass halfway to his mouth. Helen's hand tightened around her knife. "Excuse me," Lily whispered, her voice sharp with panic. "I can't carry your children if I'm pregnant with my own," Grace added, her tone cold now. Helen reached across the table and snatched Grace's phone. "Then you're cut off. Everything." Michael held out his hand. "Car keys. Now." Lily's face turned red. Her chair screeched as she stood. "I've waited 3 years for your body. You can't do this." Grace didn't flinch. She simply nodded, pretending to reconsider. Her hands were steady, but her heartbeat was loud in her ears. That night, while pretending to pack slowly, she searched the attic. What she found chilled her to the bone. A box, neatly labeled, held files about 3 other foster girls. Michelle, genetically incompatible. Sarah, who ran away. Jessica, emotionally unstable. Each folder had notes, test results, and rejection stamps. Grace's hands trembled as she realized she had been next in line. The first one who had stayed long enough to turn 18. They'd done this before. And if she didn't leave now, they would do it again. The next day, Grace stuffed her violin case with cash she'd saved secretly over the years. Her heart pounded as she slipped out the window, her backpack tight across her shoulders. The mansion's lawn was wet with morning dew. She ran, not stopping until she reached Ethan's apartment. But when she walked in, something felt wrong. A check sat on his counter, $50,000 with her name in the memo line, "Delivery complete." Beneath it was a contract. "Deliver her on schedule." Ethan's signature sat at the bottom. Grace froze. Her knees wobbled as she turned toward the door. But Ethan was already standing in it. "They're on their way," he said quietly. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." Grace backed up, her voice barely a whisper. "They paid you to love me?" Ethan didn't answer. His silence confirmed everything. 3 years of love letters. 3 years of whispered promises. All of it fake. "You were the easiest mark I ever had," he said finally. "Foster kid. No family. Desperate for love." Her hands gripped the violin case. She faked left and darted right, but Ethan was quick. His hand grabbed her backpack strap and yanked her back. "Mrs. Winters," he shouted down the hall. "She's here." In a burst of panic, Grace swung her violin case as hard as she could, slamming it into Ethan's knee. He cried out, releasing her. Without looking back, she ran. Grace's sneakers pounded the concrete stairs as she dashed down the back hallway of Ethan's apartment. His voice echoed behind her, shouting directions to the Winters. "She's heading toward the alley. Use the cars." The narrow alley smelled like oil and garbage, but she didn't stop. One end was already blocked by Michael's black Mercedes, headlights beaming like searchlights. At the other end, Lily sat in her white SUV, engine running, eyes wild. They had planned every escape route. Grace spotted a dumpster pressed against the wall. Without hesitation, she climbed onto it, nearly slipping, then reached up for the fire escape. Her fingers caught the cold, rusted metal. "She's climbing!" Lily shrieked, slamming her car door. Grace didn't look down. She just pulled herself up, one rung at a time. From the second-floor landing, Grace could see the Winters gathering below. Michael was on his phone. Helen was pacing in heels, her voice suddenly syrupy again. "Sweetheart, please come down. You're confused. Let's talk." Lily was practically vibrating with rage, shouting at her parents. "She's getting away. Don't let her go." Their polished image looked ridiculous against the backdrop of the dirty alley. They looked like people playing dress-up in a nightmare. Grace turned away. Her hands scraped across the brick wall as she looked for a window. Most were locked or painted shut. One, however, was open a crack. Inside, an elderly woman was watching TV. Grace tapped lightly, then pushed it open wider. The window gave with a groan and Grace scrambled inside. Her backpack caught on the sill, but she yanked it free. The woman gasped and dropped her coffee mug, which shattered on the floor. "I'm so sorry," Grace said quickly, holding her hands up. "Please. I'm not here to steal anything. I just need help." Through the window she could still hear the Winters arguing. Helen's voice rose in anger, Michael gesturing wildly. Lily stalked in circles near her car. The woman narrowed her eyes. "I've seen you before," she said softly. "You're the one who lives near Ryan. Always carrying a violin." Grace nodded. "Please. Don't let them find me." The woman paused, then reached for the phone. Grace panicked. Please don't call them. They're not my family. They were using me for something horrible. Her words tumbled out in a rush. They raised me to be a surrogate. They groomed me for years. Please, you have to believe me. The woman listened without interrupting. After a long moment, she handed Grace the phone. Check your messages, she said. I'll handle the door if they come. Grace opened her email. 3 years of messages from Ethan stared back at her. As she read them, her stomach churned. Each one, every sweet compliment, every supportive word, read now like a trap. Crafted lies designed to keep her close. Grace closed her eyes and swallowed hard. It had never been love. Down the hallway, voices rang out. Helen's sugary voice turned sharp. Our daughter is sick, she told a neighbor. She's off her medication and ran away. She's confused and we're so worried. Grace's phone buzzed somewhere. It had been taken and reactivated. She knew Ethan was reading her messages. Her best friend, Emily, must have been texting, concerned about the vague warning Grace had sent before disappearing. The woman, whose name tag read Doris, returned with an armful of clothes. These were my daughters, she said. She passed 2 years ago. Lavender was her favorite scent too. The coincidence sent a chill through Grace, but she took the hoodie gratefully. You don't have to trust me yet, Doris said gently. But I do believe you. Grace changed quickly and followed Doris to the living room. I used to be a social worker, Doris said as she turned on the ancient desktop computer. What you're saying? I've seen it before. Not often, but enough to know it's real. Grace logged into her cloud storage. The pictures she'd taken of the other foster girls' files were still there. She downloaded them and saved copies to a flash drive Doris handed her. They can wipe your phone, Doris warned, but not this. A knock shook the door. Mrs. Chin. Ethan's voice called out, calm and friendly. Have you seen a girl come in here? Brown hair. She's very sick and needs her medication. Grace froze. Doris motioned toward the bedroom. Grace darted into the closet, heart pounding as Ethan's voice continued, smooth and fake. She might hurt herself, he said. Her family's just trying to help. Doris cracked the door just enough. Haven't seen anyone, she lied. Been watching my programs all evening. Ethan thanked her and moved on. Through the wall, Grace heard him knock on the next door, repeating the same lies. Doris returned to the living room, eyes sharp. That boy gives me the creeps, she muttered. Foster kids, no predators. We can smell them. She took up post at the window again, watching the Winters regroup by their cars. They're panicking now, she said almost to herself. They're losing control. Doris's phone buzzed with a message from a neighbor. What's going on outside? That fancy family is making a scene. Grace sat on the couch, clutching her knees. She remembered her violin teacher, Miss Parker, who lived just a few blocks away. Miss Parker had always noticed things. Bruises, flinches, silence. She never pried, but she always offered help. Grace told Doris she was thinking of going there. Good, Doris said. But you're not going yet. She handed Grace the flash drive again. I'll make more copies. You go after they circle back around front. Exit through the laundry room. Take the basement door. Grace nodded and hugged her. Thank you. Doris just smiled and said, run fast. The laundry room smelled like detergent and rust. Grace moved past washing machines and baskets of clothes until she reached the back door. It opened to a quiet street. The Winters weren't there yet. She took off, heart pounding, hood pulled over her head. Every car made her flinch. Every sound behind her felt like footsteps. But she kept going. 6 blocks. That's what Doris had said. Just 6 blocks to Miss Parker's apartment. Grace whispered it over and over like a prayer. 1 block. Ugh. Her legs burned, but she didn't stop. She had run before, from bad homes, from empty promises. But this time was different. She was running toward something. By the 5th block, Grace's chest hurt and her vision blurred. But she kept her eyes on the streetlight ahead. Finally, she reached the gray brick building and buzzed the number for Miss Parker's unit. Her voice crackled through the speaker. Hello. It's Grace, she said, almost choking on the words. Please. I need help. The buzzer sounded and Grace pushed the door open with shaking hands. Miss Parker was already waiting, her face pale with worry. What happened? She asked, pulling her inside. They used me, Grace whispered. They planned it for years. And it wasn't just me. Miss Parker led her to the kitchen and sat her down gently. "Tell me everything," she said. "I'm listening." Grace sat at Miss Parker's kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of tea. Her voice trembled as she explained it all, from the birthday dinner and the medical files, to the attic box and the desperate escape. Miss Parker didn't interrupt. Her expression grew darker with each detail. "I always had a strange feeling about the Winters," she finally said. "They monitored your lessons too closely. Asked invasive questions." Grace looked down. "They fooled everyone." Miss Parker leaned forward. "Not everyone. I just didn't have proof. But now we do." She handed Grace her phone. "Call someone you trust. We'll figure this out together." Grace hesitated, then called Emily. Emily arrived in 30 minutes, confused and anxious. "Grace?" she whispered, eyes wide. Grace nodded. "It's really me." Emily stepped inside slowly. "What's going on?" "Your mom called the school. Said you were mentally unstable." "That's the story they're telling everyone," Grace replied. She handed her the flash drive. "This has files. Other girls before me. I wasn't the first." Emily opened her laptop and clicked through the folders. Her face paled when she saw one name, Michelle. "I remember her," she said. "I saw her at the mall with Helen once years ago. She looked scared." Grace nodded. "She vanished after that. No trace." The room fell quiet as the weight of the truth settled. Emily recorded Grace's full testimony on her phone, then helped her draft a message for a fake account they could use to monitor the Winters' social media activity. Within hours they saw posts on community pages. "Our daughter is missing. She's off her medication. Please help us bring her home." Grace's school photo was shared over and over again. Strangers commented fake sightings. "I saw her near the grocery store. She was acting strange at the park. She needs help." "They're building a case," Emily said. "Trying to paint you as unstable before the truth comes out." Grace exhaled slowly. "Then we have to move faster. Before they close every door." Miss Parker called an old friend, Officer Grant, a retired cop who sometimes consulted on sensitive cases. He came over the next morning, listened carefully and said, "You've got something real here. But without physical harm, it's tough to prosecute grooming or emotional manipulation." Grace stared at the table. "So they get away with it?" Officer Grant shook his head. "Not if we're smart. Build public support. Gather witnesses. Create a pattern too loud to ignore." Emily opened her phone. "Look at this. Lily's been posting about surrogacy since 5 years ago. On fertility forums. She's been planning this for a long time." Miss Parker nodded grimly. "We'll get them. But we'll do it our way." Later that afternoon there was a knock at the door. Miss Parker's elderly neighbor, Mrs. Jennings, stepped in hesitantly. "I saw the posts online," she said, adjusting her glasses. "That family, Helen Winters, I saw her yell at a girl on their porch 2 years ago. A black girl. Looked about 17. She was crying." Grace's breath caught. "Michelle." Mrs. Jennings frowned. "She disappeared not long after." "I always wondered." Grace nodded. "You saw something no one else wanted to see." Mrs. Jennings reached out and squeezed her hand. "People believe you now. We won't let this happen again." Grace called her old foster care caseworker, Ms. Rodriguez. Her hands shook as she held the phone to her ear. When Rodriguez answered, Grace spoke fast, explaining everything. The line went silent. "I knew something wasn't right," Rodriguez said. "They always requested girls between 15 and 17. Said they wanted to help, but my gut said different." "Why didn't you do anything?" Grace asked. Rodriguez's voice broke. "I tried. But my supervisor said I was biased against rich families. Said the Winters were generous donors." Grace's heart dropped. "So they just got away with it." "Not anymore," Rodriguez said. "This time we fight back." The Winters escalated. They called Grace's school, pretending to be concerned parents. "She's having a breakdown," Helen told the front desk. "She misunderstood something we said. She needs intervention." Grace's teachers didn't confirm anything. But they heard the worry in Helen's voice and the sharp edge behind it. Meanwhile, Emily started gathering public support online. She contacted school friends, teachers, even parents from orchestra concerts. "Share what you know," she messaged. Tell the truth about Grace. One by one, messages began flooding in. She was kind. She was focused. She never showed signs of mental illness. The Winters story started to crumble. Rodriguez contacted Grace again. You were the fourth girl, she said. Michelle. Jessica. Sarah. Thingy. Each one placed at the same age. Each one gone by 18. Grace closed her eyes. I found a box with their files. They kept everything. That's evidence, Rodriguez said firmly. I'll send a contact. A lawyer. Quiet but effective. Grace nodded. I'll do whatever it takes. Meanwhile, Emily watched as the Winters posted more lies. This time Helen claimed Grace was a troubled girl they tried to help. Her memory is faulty, one post read. She's confused about what really happened. Emily slammed her laptop shut. They won't stop. But neither will we. Rodriguez's contact, a kind family lawyer named Mr. Blake, met with Grace at Ms. Parker's home. You're legally an adult, he said. They have no power over you. But they may try to smear your name, twist the narrative. So we document everything. He showed her how to record dates, conversations, and who said what. Truth is the strongest weapon, he said. But you need to protect yourself too. Grace nodded, writing fast. What if they try again? To trap another girl? Then we stop them here, he replied. With your help, no one else ends up in a lavender bedroom believing she's loved when she's really being prepared. Grace's story kept spreading. More people believed her. Parents at school reached out to Emily privately. We never trusted Helen, one said. She was too polished, too controlling. Another added, they never showed photos of Grace as a child. It was always formal pictures. Like a catalog. The small oddities everyone had ignored were now pieces of a bigger puzzle. Teachers began speaking up. Ms. Howard from drama class said, Helen always asked who Grace sat with. Watched her from the back row. She tracked me, Grace whispered. Emily nodded. She didn't raise you. She studied you. The truth was coming out, and the Winters had no idea how fast it was unraveling. Grace and Emily dug deeper into online forums. That's where they found Jessica, now 22, living a few towns away, posting under the name Rebuild Jess. Her page was filled with poems about survival and emotional healing. Grace reached out with a shaky message. I think we have something in common. The Winters. Minutes later, Jessica replied, I've been waiting for this message. They arranged a video call that night. Jessica's voice was calm but heavy with truth. They did the same to me. Groomed me for Lily's pregnancy plan. I found the fake belly she wore around the house. That's when I knew. Grace's heart broke. We can't let it happen again, she said. Jessica nodded. Then let's burn their perfect image to the ground. The next day, Grace posted her story, carefully worded, avoiding direct accusations but packed with truth. When I turned 18, my adoptive family revealed they had a plan for my body. They wanted children, from me, for someone else. I wasn't the first. But I will be the last. The post went viral. Survivors of adoption and foster care began sharing their own stories. People flooded the comments with support, outrage, and offers to help. Jessica posted her own evidence. Scanned medical records, notes she'd stolen before running, even photos of Lily's nursery, finished before any pregnancy had ever begun. That, more than anything, made people believe. Who builds a nursery for a child not yet conceived? Under pressure, the Winters made one last attempt. Their lawyer reached out through Ms. Rodriguez, offering Grace a large settlement. Enough to cover college, housing, anything she wanted. If she'd sign an NDA and say she'd misunderstood. Grace didn't need time to decide. Tell them I'd rather live broke and free than rich and silenced, she said. Then, at a community event about foster care reform, Grace showed up with Jessica and Emily beside her. The Winters were there too, dressed in quiet grays, trying to blend in. But whispers rose as the crowd recognized them. People stared. Helen's hands trembled. Michael didn't meet anyone's eyes. Grace walked right past them and took the microphone. You want to talk about reform? Let's start with the people we trust the most. The room fell silent. Grace spoke clearly, sharing what had happened. Not just to her but to Michelle, to Jessica, to the girl who had vanished. Sarah. As if summoned by name, Sarah entered the room halfway through the speech. She'd been found by a foster care advocate who saw the viral post. I had no one who believed me, Sarah said, standing next to Grace. How I do. When Lily saw her, something inside her snapped. She stood and shouted, You don't understand. I was promised a baby. My parents told me it would happen. Her voice cracked into sobs. I decorated nurseries. I picked out names. But the crowd only looked at her with stunned pity. The illusion had shattered. The truth was undeniable. Grace's closing words echoed through the hall. They waited 3 years to use me. But instead of giving them what they wanted, I gave the world the truth. That truth set off a chain reaction. Investigations launched. Their foster license was revoked in every state. Michael's business collapsed. Helen was banned from every charity board she sat on. Lily disappeared from public view. But Grace didn't disappear. She, Jessica, and Sarah started a support network for girls aging out of the system. The lavender bedroom was gone, but in its place stood something real. At their first benefit concert, Grace played her violin on stage, her bow steady, her back straight. In the front row sat a girl with a group home bracelet, eyes wide with hope. Grace smiled. This one's for you. Moral lesson. Sometimes the families who choose you do so for all the wrong reasons. But truth, once spoken, cannot be silenced. And chosen families built on love and truth are stronger than any illusion. Remember to hit the like button, comment and subscribe to this channel for more of this.